Without further ado, I'd like to invite our first distinguished keynote speaker, Honorable Marko Kunal, Senior Legal Advisor at the Estonia Ministry of Justice, who served as former chair of the Cybercrime Convention Committee at the Council of Europe. Marko Kunal is currently working at the Criminal Policy Department of the Ministry of Justice of Estonia. He is also the member of the Bureau of the Convention Committee on Cybercrime, which is supervising the implementation and dealing with other matters related to the Convention on Cybercrime. Between 2010 and 2014, he was the chair of the committee. As a government representative, he has participated in different European Union, Council of Europe, and United Nations working expert groups, as well as committees on criminal law, criminal procedure, cybercrime, and other cyber-related matters. He has been a consultant, trainer, and speaker on cybersecurity, cybercrime, and criminal justice-related topics, and involved in capacity-building activities and projects worldwide. His topic that he is going to talk about today is Budapest Convention and its second additional protocol. Please help me welcome Mr. Kunal. The floor is yours.
First, I would like to thank you, the organizers, the Korean Institute of Criminology, for giving me an opportunity and an invitation to speak to you about this important topic. I will just first say a few words about the background. What is the overall cyber threat environment? What are the main challenges? What are the instruments that can be used to tackle all these threats? And what could be the way forward? First, as regards cybercrime and as regards cyber threats, then governments as well as different international organizations are constantly reporting about increasing numbers which are related to cybercrime and other cyber-related threats. Current COVID-19 pandemic has also brought additional challenges, not only for law enforcement authorities worldwide, but for the rest as well. Working from distance online, use of different remote tools, they all have increased vulnerabilities. Low awareness about the threats and then lack of sufficient prevention measures can also facilitate cybercrime. Individuals, businesses, as well as governments, they all suffer more and more from different types of cybercrime. When we think about cybercrime, then cybercrime has also changed as regards its targets and possible impact. We can now also talk about threats to national security, to economy, to a political system of the country. In turn, this all requires effective response from governments who need to take measures to prevent, detect, and investigate cybercrime. The current COVID-19 pandemic has also shown that cybercrime can become even worse, more aggressive, more complicated, and more expensive for everybody. We have seen more attacks against governments and critical infrastructure, including attacks against health sector. This means that the approach and then policy to prevent cybercrime must also change accordingly. And these new policies need to meet new threats and trends. Restrictions, limitations related to physical presence, as well as meetings, remotely working, these have also brought new threats and vulnerabilities. It has also a negative impact on the operation of law enforcement authorities, as well as judiciary. As regards cybercrime, fight against cybercrime, there have been problems related to this already earlier. However, the current situation we are having, I think this amplifies all of them. This means that both businesses and individuals have increased expectations, what governments can do, what governments should do. It is expectation that governments should ensure safe and secure cyberspace and effective response to cybercrime. However, we still have different indications from different parts of the world that only a small fraction of the cybercrime offenses are being reported and investigated. As regards challenges, then there is a need for a joint and effective response to cybercrime. Still, unfortunately, in many countries, legislative framework can be fragmented, and the country's capacity to detect and investigate cybercrime is low. This needs to change. Government here have different options. First, there has to be a strategic approach, a policy, how to continue, how to just live, how to continue with this situation. This includes policies, strategies on cybersecurity and cybercrime, as well as necessary supporting legislative framework. As regards criminal justice response to cybercrime, it is important to highlight both substantive and procedural law, as well as proper legislation, proper legal basis enabling effective national and international cooperation. There has to be sufficient capacity, competent, specialized institutions to investigate cybercrime, as well as analyze electronic evidence. This also includes digital forensics. Competent authorities need to have all the necessary resources in order to perform their duties. Law enforcement authorities and judiciary, they need to pay attention also to training. As technology is evolving, the same applies to threats. It is of utmost importance that the governments can provide up-to-date training for all. Cooperation has been so far and then will be in the future a key issue. Most of the data, computer data or electronic evidence, is being stored by private sector entities. There is a need for a legislative framework which would enable swift and smooth cooperation between public and private sector. Building trust and culture of cooperation is relevant because both sides, both public and then private sector, need each other here. Law enforcement authorities should also consider concluding cooperation agreements, memoranda of understanding, in order to make public-private partnership fully effective. Most of the cybercrime offenses and then cyber-related threats are cross-border. This means that legislative and organizational framework is not always sufficient if you focus only on national level cooperation and rely solely on domestic competent authorities. Countries need to learn how to cooperate with each other in a most effective manner. International cooperation is key here. However, this is also an area which needs most attention and then which has most problems. International cooperation requires legal basis for the cooperation, an instrument, available cooperation channels, and both parties who wish to cooperate with each other need to have common minimum standards in place. Otherwise, cooperation between those two countries wouldn't work at all or wouldn't be effective. While most of the threats and incidents are of cross-border nature, governments cannot fight cybercrime alone. As I mentioned, even if country adopts sufficient, up-to-date substantive and then procedural law provisions, criminalizes cybercrime, provides necessary tool for its law enforcement authorities, there is still need to cooperate with other countries as well, because information you need, computer data, electronic evidence, is often abroad. As cybercrime has become a cross-border phenomenon, that means that victims, perpetrators, as well as computer systems used to commit the crime may well locate in different jurisdictions. This applies to computer data or electronic evidence. This is what is needed to investigate the case and identify the perpetrators. International cooperation is often problematic because countries have different views, not only with regard to substantive law, that means what should be considered a cybercrime at all, or they might have also different views how international cooperation should work. Also, as regards response to cybercrime and tools at international level, then every country needs to think and then analyze what could be the options here, and then how to improve its legislative framework, organizational framework, as well as international cooperation. Currently, there is only one internationally legally binding instrument on cybercrime and electronic evidence. It is the Convention on Cybercrime, also known as the Budapest Convention. As regards substantive law, procedural law, legal basis for international cooperation, Budapest Convention can serve as a model here because it provides this. It is also important to note that the provisions of the convention can also be addressed to investigate other criminal offenses where electronic evidence is involved. The convention uses language that is technology neutral, and that means that it can be applied to different types of cybercrime. It can be considered as an instrument on cybercrime and electronic evidence, which also has a global impact. Many countries, at the moment 65 countries, have already joined the convention, but even more have used it as a guide to develop and update the domestic legislation, including on substantive and procedural law. Convention is also being used on a daily basis for international cooperation and to exchange information. Convention can be used to request preservation, production, and real-time access of data from another party. In addition to mutual legal assistance tools and then cooperation between central authorities, it also provides cooperation through its 24/7 network and points of contact. However, there is still room for improvement in order to ensure effective and timely access to electronic evidence that is being stored abroad. In particular, when we are talking about cloud computing and data being stored somewhere in the cloud. When speaking about electronic evidence, one has to think about its characteristics, in particular, its volatile nature. Computer data can be copied, moved, deleted very quickly, and this may involve computer systems in multiple jurisdictions. It is often the case that exact location, physical location of the data remains unknown, in particular when law enforcement authorities face so-called dark web investigations. And then this is a problem. The question is how to ensure timely access to data, how to secure the data, and then how to obtain the data if it's stored abroad. Budapest Convention already contains several procedural measures related to, as I mentioned, preservation, production, real-time access to data. However, as we are thinking about how data can move really fast across the borders, across different jurisdictions, it might not be sufficient at the moment. As regards internet, as regards cyberspace, there are no boundaries for individuals in cyberspace. They can do whatever they want. They can copy, move, delete data as they wish, in particular when it comes to different cloud computing services. However, for the law enforcement, these boundaries still exist. And if they want to pursue, if they want to trace the data, if they want to collect the data, then rules and then principles on international cooperation still apply. As existing or traditional mutual legal assistance frameworks were not designed to address electronic evidence, don't provide necessary speed and effectiveness, there is a need to develop additional tools. Now I'm also just referring to the discussions related to second additional protocol to the convention. Consultations related to the second additional protocol to the Budapest Convention have been taking place for years. In September 2017, the Cybercrime Convention Committee started to draft and negotiate text of the protocol. The main goal is to provide, in addition to existing traditional mutual legal assistance frameworks, also new measures and additional tools for law enforcement to obtain electronic evidence from abroad. These tools would, of course, complement existing measures and would cover, inter alia, direct cooperation with multinational service providers, these cloud providers, we can say, and also faster procedures for emergency situations. Idea is also to find ways how to facilitate, how to make traditional mutual legal assistance more effective. Negotiations related to the protocol haven't been finalized yet. but we all hope that the new protocol would provide additional tools related to electronic evidence and make fight against cybercrime more effective. Information about the convention, as well as negotiations on the second edition protocol, is publicly available at the Council of Europe's Cybercrime Convention Committee website. As regards the text of the protocol, then several provisions have been already provisionally agreed and made public to facilitate discussions and consultations with all relevant stakeholders, in particular with private sector. We hope to achieve a result that would suit everybody, a result and outcome that would provide necessary added value related to fight against cybercrime. And we believe that the text of the protocol would be opened for signature already next year in 2021. Once again, I would like to thank the organizers of this forum for giving me an opportunity to speak about this. I hope to meet you all personally in the future, and I wish you a successful conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kunal, for all the detailed explanations about setting forth the Budapest Convention and also additional protocol drafting, and all the information would be very helpful to kind of combat the cybercrime and to strengthen the international cooperation between the different countries. Thank you so much.